It's the Google Pixel Fold once again, and even though I'm not 100%, and you're going to have to bear with some cuts in this video as my voice goes in and out, I had to come back on here and talk about this phone because I've seen so much stuff on Twitter, on YouTube, about this as the phone of the year, worth $1,800, people's favorite foldables, which is going to be personal preference, but we'll talk about it in a moment. Well, I don't think this is a bad phone. I don't think it's unsalvageable. I just think there are things that Google needs to recognize are happening here. There are deficiencies with this device, and Google has to A, acknowledge them, and B, fix them in a timely fashion. And unless you haven't been paying attention the last couple of years, that's not exactly Google's specialty, right? They're not exactly the best at saying, well, yeah, you're right. That's not quite right. Let's go ahead and fix it. They're more of the head in the sand where they just pretend it's not a thing and either discontinue the device completely or wait months and then secretly or kind of silently release a patch that addresses some of the concerns. And to me, for $1,800, that's not good enough. But let's talk about some of the positives still about the Pixel Fold. Number one is the hardware. I have seen so many creators talking about how they don't quite understand why they like it so much, but they love using the Pixel Fold. I understand that completely. It's the outer display, number one, which is by far the most usable outer display we've had on a foldable in the United States. Really good. Google nailed that. A+. The rest of the hardware itself is really good too. Premium, feels good, love the construction, love the design. Think they nailed that. A lot of times, even though I don't like using the internal display, which we'll talk about, I find myself opening it just to enjoy the hinge. Because the hinge is absolutely great. The best. It's a thin hinge. Feels good. One of the best that I've felt on a foldable. So it's not like there's not stuff to work with here. The problem is everybody gets wrapped up in the outer display and not realizing that, well, yeah, if you love the outer display, that's great. You could buy a Pixel 7 Pro, get the same Pixel experience, save yourself a lot of money, and not have to worry about carrying this around. You could just get a regular slab if you're so concerned with the outer display. My problems start when we talk about the inner display. So let's talk about those comments that I got for the internal experience on the Pixel Fold. Number one, the crease. I got so many comments on the last video saying, well, foldables have creases. Surprised you didn't know that. Yes, no, I'm aware. There are creases on foldables. Here's one. Here's another one. Here's another one. The difference between these other creases and the Pixel Fold is that these other devices have creases. The Pixel Fold has a canyon. The actual width of the crease itself is significantly different between a Fold 4 and the Pixel Fold. This I could fit, I can't even measure it properly on camera because the start of the crease and the end of the crease fits almost between two fingernails, between my two fingers. That's like that on all of them. The crease on the Pixel Fold, because of the grade that they have on it, starts here and ends here. It's a gap. And then when you factor in that little 1 degree off full 180 close, it exacerbates the crease itself. So it's not so much that you have a fine point running through your text like you do with the other devices. It's like you have a gully running through. That's my main concern. That's why I think that for a Fold 2, they need to work on something like this because it just doesn't work for me in single screen, widescreen, just putting out text across the entire length of the display. Now, a lot of people have said, well, I really like using it like a Microsoft Surface Duo, which is fair. When I put up multiple apps on the Pixel Fold, I actually kind of like the experience. It's a nice aspect ratio. You get to preserve what the app kind of wants at aspect ratio-wise on either display. It's a good experience. But because of that, that means that if Google wants us to do that, if Google designed the inner display experience to be like that, that means they've included an easy way to do app pairs, right? Right? Not quite. Android 14 maybe. Oh, they're working on it. Well, it's not like they had examples of what to do. It's not like on the Fold 4, you could just go ahead, set up an app pair as you please, pull it in from the right here. I have it right in my Samsung Edge panel. Whatever app pair I want, I could go ahead and do that. Oh, Microsoft Surface Duo. Not exactly the software king when this device came out. However, app pairs. I could go ahead in there, do what I need to do. Plan, learn, whatever. I got OneNote, I got Microsoft Edge up at the same time. Now, what I love about this, and what I hope that Google would add later on, is the ability to swipe one of them away and go ahead and select another one. If you're going to give us an experience like the Surface Duo and have that set up like that, let us really get into multitasking. For some reason, Google's software experience on the inside of this display was just not up to multitasking. It was not up to the larger display. There was a lot to be left desired here. I would love to see some of that. Then when you compound that with the fact that how is this the Instagram experience? Okay? Every other manufacturer that came out with a fold that I could think of came up with a solution to this. Google's the only one that sat there and said, well, it's on the developers. No, it's not. The experience that I get for $1,800 is on you. That's a Google logo on the back of this device. My account says that Google charged me $1,800, not Instagram. So while it's nice to blame the developers and say that's where the onus is on it to be fixed, it's on you. And Samsung, Huawei, Vivo, people who sell significantly more units than you do, were able to realize that. But you didn't. And then everybody gives it the old, it's the first gen stuff. Why did we have patience with the first Samsung foldable, but not this one? Because that was brand new. The first guy through the wall always gets bloodied. That's the point. But the idea is, first off, I didn't recommend anybody buy the first generation Fold either. That was ridiculous for that kind of money. So just similarly, if that's your argument, well, then hold off on the Pixel Fold. But if you want to buy this, then you should demand that the standards that have now been set be followed. Google doesn't live in a vacuum. They have YouTube. They have the ability to hire people out there who have done this stuff for other companies. They have the ability to include these optimizations in their software. They elected not to. They're not living in a walled-off society where they have to develop. There's not oceans in between both of these companies where they have to develop everything from scratch, so you give them a pass on first gen. That's not the way it works. They can look over, see what the other companies are doing, and say, hey, we should have that. They didn't do that. That's a problem for me. And that brings us to the first gen argument in general. I don't like it. You do not get a pass for that. At least not in my book. You don't pay with special first generation dollars, do you? Are there some sort of dollars that you pay with for a first gen product that were easier to earn for you? Did you not have to work as hard for the $1,800 you spent on this than you do on other products that are more refined? Like the Fold 4? Not how it works, right? This money's coming out of your pocket today. And given Google's track record of not being the best at coming up with solutions to stuff, and then just maybe leaving town if they don't like the product, like Soli, like Google Glass, you could be spending money and be left out to dry. That's why I say, look, there's a lot to like here. Battery life, number one, they need to fix that. I don't know what they need to do. Just needs to be fixed. There's a lot to like here. But I don't think it's the end of the world to say, why don't we wait and see what Google's able to come up with that are solutions to these? Because let me tell you something. If we get app pairs that are pretty good, if we get a multitasking experience that's worthy of this nice kind of landscape that we have on the internal display and matches the excellent hardware and beautiful and perfectly usable outer display, well then, yeah, you got a winner here. But we're not there yet. And I don't think that's a sin to say, you know what, there is a lot to like here. It was a good first attempt from Google, but in order for me to go ahead and recommend it for $1,800 and really get excited about it as my favorite foldable, it needs to at least match the standards of other foldables that are currently on the market. And to me, for my personal use, it doesn't. It doesn't. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll have more to say about this in the coming days. But, you know, I need to get back on here and kind of get that off my chest and say that, you know, because I'd seen a lot in the comment section about people saying, well, why am I being so hard on it, this, that, and the other thing? Well, when you charge full boat, guess what? You have to deal with full criticism. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.